gone by, but they treat me the same. They're going way back, trying to change the time, picking up the laws just to see me confined. Memories stay, but the pain still stays. They don't care about the rules, they don't want me to pay. A sentence too heavy, a verdict too cold, breaking all the limits while their story unfolds. Where's the justice now? No, don't care in the courts alive. Taking freedom like a thief in the night. Fighting for my soul, but they dim my light. Where's the justice now? When the truth get lost in the lie so loud. But I'ma stand tall even when they deny. Cause a man's still a man in his father's eyes. Statues written, made to hold the line. But they cross them out like they ain't worth a dime. 20 years heavy for a crime time barred. I can call it justice when the system's so scarred. They say it's just me, it could be you one day. When they move the goalposts and take your rights away. A story of a brother they refuse to defend. But the fight ain't over, this ain't the end. Hey, where's the justice now? The Lord don't care and the courts allow. Taking freedom like a thief in the night. Fighting for my soul, but they dim my lights. Where's the justice now? When the truth get lost and the lies so loud. But I'ma stand tall even when they deny. Cause a man's still a man in the Father's eyes. I believe that the truth gon' rise. They can change my body, but my spirit still flies. Appeals won't stop me, my name won't fade. Legends live on through the storms they made. Where's the justice now? The law don't care and the courts allow. Striking freedom like a thief in the night. Fighting for my soul, but they dim my light. Where's the justice now? Amen. Thank you, Robert Sylvester Kelly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Where's the justice now? When you got victims, real victims out here, but they lock up the innocent and let the criminal run free. What happened to this young lady, Ashley, wouldn't have never happened if people were paying attention the way they stayed. Excuse me. R. Kelly was a celebrity. He lived his life in the public. He made some mistakes. He dated certain women that he was surrounded by, that got close to be in his proximity, and things did happen. It wasn't like the parents didn't know what their daughters were doing, because the parents were doing it with their children, setting him up, all trying to get a bag, right? But guess who suffered behind all of it? R. Kelly. R. Kelly was the only one to be the fall guy. Nobody from the industry that was the top man other than him. He was the brand, but they were the ones who were bringing in the young women around him and setting it up. They were able to get the fake IDs, to lie about their age, to be in his proximity. All this was shown in his trial, both trials, and how they just did a miscarriage of justice. They had his trial in two different places. He had no victims in New York, but they had trial. They set up another trial for him to go for his EDIL trial, which was in Chicago, the Eastern District of Illinois. They did the one in New York first, where there was no victims. But the funny thing is that the girl, Ashley, Not Ashley, Azarel. Oh my God, they both names sounds alike. Ashley and Azarel should be going around 30 right now. She should be around 30, almost close to 30 right now. Ashley just turned 31. John McCain, of course, is like between 45, he's 48 years old, 45, 48, might be even older than that, might be even 50. Okay? But this man, Joe McCain, Joe Isaac McCain, because I found out his full name, this man, this crypto business, whatever, taking young women out of the country, because this was not the first time he's been out of the country. And come to find out, the Zanzibar, Zori Zanzibar, the person who runs that island, is also a white man. Listen to what I'm saying. And he's a friend of Joe. So, where's the justice? Everything is just like this young woman been out of the country before with him, even though she lives his age and she's a grown woman, and all you can say, but she still was a woman. And only God knows what Joe was doing to this young woman. And not only just to her, not only just to Ashley. I believe there's more victims. And it happened right there in that country on that island called Zanzibar. Zori Zanzibar. Another young lady came from Instagram, told her story about, I would say, a good 4 years ago. It happened in 2021, but she told her story in 2022. She was a Nigerian young woman on her birthday. And I'm going to show it to you. Let's go there. Let's go there. Okay? Because this is what people are not looking at. Zainab Oladehandi. Sexual assault claim in Zanzibar hotel. Okay? Holiday. Okay. Tourism Commission. Zanzibar sexual assault. Let's see how we're going to talk about her story. I'm going to go to her Instagram. Okay? Right here. I was almost raped on my birthday in Zanzibar. Zane Oladahandi. Okay? I don't know that name too well, so y'all got to forgive me for that. Also shares, okay, Zahana Wamwami narrates how she was almost raped in her hotel room in Zanzibar, Tanzania. Alahande on her Twitter page also shared videos and photos to back up her story. She wrote, "It's high time told my horrible experience in Zanzibar as a young solo female traveler." Now, her story was out way before all of this. Okay? And you see how things are happening, and God is starting to open up and show us things that are going on with these so-called successful, rich, wealthy men that traffic young women to these foreign countries, and horrible things happen to them. And Ashley's story happened for a reason. Because while we sitting here thinking that these women are safe with these rich men that they traveling in the world with, it ain't safe. And only God knows that how many other women this man brought to this exotic place, Zanzibar, and did horrible things with them. And we never heard of them again. But he gotten away with it. And I'm sure there's been other victims. That's why I say, where's the justice? because R. Kelly life was lived in the public. It's always the ones you think are the predators, and the ones you don't think. I mean, the ones you think are the predators are not, and the ones you don't think are the predators, they are the predators. Hear me closely. You know how these people make their money. R. Kelly made his money right there in the open in front of us. He was a songwriter, a choreographer, a performer, and everything else like that. He lived his life right there in our eyesight. Okay? He lived his life around us. So he was always on the radar. Even when that incident took place, we don't know what really happened behind the infamous tape because there's so many stories behind it of the young lady that came and told her story or whatever about R. Kelly. But I'm sure it wasn't just R. Kelly behind the things that were happening with these young girls, and he was the fall guy. But it was behind the wealthy, rich businessmen and even politicians that was pushing this narrative that R. Kelly was a predator. Well, all men to me are predators. But I'm saying, like, making it sound like he was the one who was bringing in these young women. Just like I feel Joe McCain with this going to Tanzania, a country that is sanctioned, banned, sanctioned, and we're going to go into that. On the 15th of April of 2021, this happened to this young lady on April of 2021. Look at the time. This happened. Ashley, her birthday was in April, and here we are in 2026. I flew from Lagos, Nigeria to Zanzibar, Tanzania for my 23rd birthday. And I was extremely excited about it. I had my reservations about going to a foreign country as a solo female traveler, but none of my thoughts would have prepared me for what I eventually witnessed and experienced in Tanzania. She revealed the second day flight had a 1 day transit time in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, but she arrived at her hotel where she booked a 6 night accommodation. At around 12 a.m., a few friends and family called to wish me a happy birthday, and then I went back to sleep. A few hours into my sleep, I felt a strange hand touching my breast. Now, this was me sleeping naked on my bed in my hotel room with my doors locked, so this was definitely a dream. I told myself and went back to sleep. Some few minutes afterwards, I felt my hand stroking someone's, whatever. At this moment, I opened my eyes to confirm it was actually a dream or I was in real danger. Lo and behold, it wasn't a dream. There was a naked man lying on my bed and touching me at 2 a.m. in my hotel room. He started calling me baby, and then I became scared because the room was dark as I had switched off the lights before I went to bed. She described how the stranger wanted to force himself on her, but she had to lie that she had HIV so he could leave her alone, especially as he couldn't understand English but was speaking Swahili to her. She noticed that at the mention of HIV, he paused, so she kept mentioning it whilst crying, telling him to go get a condom, which he agreed to, and immediately she left. She ran out of her room to go call for help. Now, this is the strange part about this Ashley story, because we all know Ashley was a very attractive woman. She was there with Joe, supposedly be safe where she was supposed to be staying. And then somehow I'm hearing so many stories that Joe actually will leave and go visit and go be with other women. and leave Ashley there. That's what all the fights were all about while they were staying there at Zanzibar. They had a fight because a man was flirting with Ashley outside of the reception. This is how some people have been coming and telling stories and whatever. But from this woman's story here, it's a lot of things about this so-called Zanzibar place. And I have a bad feeling that a lot of bad things go on there. And I believe it's a lot of sex trafficking. And it's an island where rich, wealthy men take women and use them for, like I said in my last video, using these women for pleasure, for entertainment and pleasure. Okay? And the reason I'm saying this is because I remember when R. Kelly was telling his side, he said there's real women out there. That these are women that are being chained and they being held and they being, kidnapped or whatever. I believe R. Kelly knows something about these places, and that's why sometimes that he didn't want to take participation in it. So they wanted to frame him and say that this is what he was doing. The things with Azrael, things with Joy, he couldn't protect them because he couldn't even protect them himself. And he just didn't realize he put himself in danger as well. And it's hard to really tell your story and people to believe your story that you really wasn't out there to harm anybody when it got to the point where it got into your home life, your family, your children, destroyed your children, and other things behind it. Like these dirty things, whatever goes with money and around this lifestyle is always danger. And it's sad that R. Kelly life is right now where it is. And by this experience that he went through, all these women attacked him. They came for him. The Me Too movement, Time's Up movement. They came for all these with wealthy men. They even came for Donald Trump, and they still coming for Donald Trump with Epstein, and now some other woman coming about talking about she got some stuff on Donald Trump, whatever. So. But I always tell women like this: the best protection is God protection. You don't have to be there if you don't want to be there. But see, when they get caught up in that life of glamour and money and things and infatuated with it, they lose sight and they find themselves in danger. Now, this woman know, like in the culture there, they don't really like. And when you go, like from what I hear, you go to Dubai, because I have family members who have went there, and I didn't feel comfortable with them going there, but they still went, and they said they got male escorts around. And I said, well, those male, you can't trust those men because you don't know what those male escorts can act. They work there, and they're supposed to be like a male escort, but like I said, with Joe's situation, the reason why it sounds like he might have done all of this stuff is due to the fact that he was with Ashley. He brought her out there. He did this proposal to her. He celebrated her birthday with her. And they were supposed to leave out of town within that time. But then they talking about all these fights was going on between him and Ashley and all the other things that was happening that's starting to surface. But the thing is that what makes him guilty, makes him suspect, is how he communicated with the family. Whether he just wasn't there when it happened, he came back and this is what was told to him, and he called out of panic and he said, well, it's been, something happened to Ashley, and he never returned any phone calls and never responded. Nobody was able to contact him or whatever. So somehow or the other, it's not the first time he's been to Zanzibar. And it's not like he probably not familiar with some of this stuff that has happened in Zanzibar. This ain't the only story of a young woman who went on her own to travel to a foreign country without any protection. Single and no one there protecting her. And that is very, very unusual in the culture of Nigeria. Usually when women are going to another country, they usually have to connect with somebody, so that person will be there to greet them and also there to care for them, make sure they have a place to stay, help them find, employment and everything while they stay in the United States. I've been around the culture. I've been married to a Nigerian before, so I know. So her going to this foreign country without protection, there's more to this story of her being only 23 years old. So this woman here from the investigation, we can but something she is not telling, that this man was in her room knowing that she was there by herself, sleeping naked, and how he got in her room knowing she was by her, traveling there alone. So the same way, usually Zanzibar, they don't, women don't usually come by themselves. It's always someone with them. So somebody connected with her in Nigeria and invited her to Zanzibar for her birthday. That's what I'm thinking. Because something is missing here for her to be without any protection. And usually, me being familiar with the Nigerian culture, women don't travel like that alone unless they have someone there that is going to accompany them, or they going there to meet with someone for her birthday. They don't travel like that. So something in this story that this Nigerian woman is saying to me don't make sense. Happened on April in 2021. We are here in 2026. Tanzania was one of the countries that President Trump did ban from coming in to the United States. And people do not pay attention. People do not pay attention. These are the countries that are banned: Burkina Faso, Mali, South Sudan, Nigeria. The partially banned and restricted countries is, I'm sorry, that's Niger. Is one of the, Nigeria is partially banned. Okay? So Nigeria, I'm sorry, y'all. Nigeria, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Zambia, Malawi, and Tanzania. And as I did my research, President Trump isn't perfect, but I can say this: he moves with intentions when it comes to protecting the American people. Okay? He's focused on safety, foreign and domestic, and that sometimes a lot of people overlook. When he puts restrictions or bans on certain countries, it's not about being liked. It's about being protective. Look at what happened to Ashley Robinson. That situation should wake people up. Traveling to foreign countries without understanding the risk, without paying attention to U.S. advisories, can turn deadly. And let's be clear, Tanzania isn't fully banned, but it's on the list with partial restrictions. That alone should tell people to move with caution. There are real concerns when it comes to security, visa overstay, and instability in certain. We also have countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, South Sudan facing stricter entry suspensions due to security risks. And then a broader list including Nigeria, Senegal, Tanzania, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and others under partial restrictions. That's not random, that's policy based on risk. Leadership isn't about pleasing everybody, it's about making hard decisions to protect your nation, and whether people like it or not, that's what's being done. Putting America's safety first. And like I said, people are not being very cautious. Okay? Now, this woman's story, I came across it, and how I heard it, I went to Tisha Tell's channel and I heard it, and I went and researched it myself. And I'm pretty sure there's more stories out there of women that travel to this country. And believe it or not, these women were not traveling alone. They are brought there, invited there. Somebody is paying for their ticket, paying for their hotel room and everything. She's saying something else. But the truth is, she ain't telling you the whole story. Because I know that in Nigeria, women do not travel alone without protection. In these African countries, these African women do not travel alone to other countries unless they are protected by some man, or they travel like in a maybe a group or so, with a family, with their family or their relatives or whatever. They don't travel alone. So somehow or the other, somebody invited that woman out there to be at that place, because they don't do that. That is very uncommon. And that's why when you go to Dubai, like I said, they give you male escorts to keep you protected. But I even don't trust those male escorts, because they can also do harm as well. I saw the movie Not Without My Daughter. She went back to her husband's country. I forgot what part of I think it was Turkey or something like that. She traveled with her husband from America to go to his country. And when she got there, things changed. And she was separated from her child and everything else. And she had to stay in a community with just only the woman. And the woman was not able to be in the same, space with the men. And whenever you had to go somewhere, it had to be a male escort there around the women. So this woman that's telling her Nigerian story, and any Arab woman or any woman come from any third world country or whatever, and they sit and they tell you that story that they went and traveled somewhere by themselves and something was going to happen to them, that is very uncommon. She was invited out there with a man. And going there for your birthday celebration, that's uncommon in Nigeria. That's uncommon in the Nigerian culture. She was invited out there to meet with some man, or some man she knew invited her to go there and pay that ticket, flight, and everything else. This is what they call trafficking. She's 23. It was her 23rd birthday. She's 22. She's turning 23. Ashley was 30 already, but turning 31. But still, she wasn't operating on a 30-year-old mindset. She was more operating on a mindset like she was still maybe 18, 19, or 20 years old. These young girls that like that's very attractive and beautiful, and they seem like they can use them through some kind of fantasy with men and doing all that stuff. Because remember, she was fighting with Joe while they were there. They were separated, supposedly, allegedly, whatever. And but then brought some men supposed to bring some cable back to her. And how was Joe able, if he was 10 or 8 minutes away and they were separated, how was Joe able to come to the room in that short period of time and do what he had to do? And the room was dark, and then something don't fit right with that story. And that's why everybody is like saying, well, we finding Joe more suspect because Joe was the one. They said that they were fighting. We don't know if that's all there that is true. Something is going on that island, and it needs to be investigated, because that place sounds like a place of sex trafficking, women. I don't know about children, but I know women, and a lot of corruption, and they trying to cover it up. And it's a reason why your president of the United States of America, who y'all don't want to listen to, okay? And y'all want to keep coming at him about Epstein and about all these other things, but he's trying to put everything in place to do what he can to keep you safe here, domestic and foreign. That's why they put on the ban list. That's to make sure these countries you go into are in allegiance with the United States of America. But since you want to ignore those signs and you want to take yourself out there and risk your life, then you go right ahead. Because if everybody's saying, well, President Trump should do it, no. Because President Trump already did what President Trump was supposed to do as your president. He can't be out here trying to save everybody's child from going overseas and going off out of the borders and getting harmed or something badly happened to them. He already got the list of places that we should not be traveling. And if you're going to travel to any of these foreign countries, check with the list to make sure that they are in alliance with the United States of America. And the reason I'm putting R. Kelly's name in is because here's a man who is doing some time in jail, who was accused of this kind of, corruption, involved in this kind of corruption with young women and girls and, sex trafficking and all this stuff he got hit with a RICO with, which he ain't the man. He's just the fall guy, but it ain't him. It's the men's like these Joe McCains who take these women across state lines so that they can either do harm to them or they could sex traffic them. And that poor girl, Ashley, I could imagine. She probably was trapped there on that island, didn't know how to find her way out, and didn't have no way to get out. It probably was trying to look for somebody to help her. And, being that place was known before from this woman telling the story, how this country is, and the person who owns this power is somebody with money. And I know how money works in these little countries where you could give these people, I don't know, their salary, but they money, that money for American money, whatever it is, it could go a long way. Even if you go there with $50,000 can go a long way to cover up your crimes with an undeveloped country, but has a very, island there where people are vacationing and you think all the beauty stuff to throw you off of what's really behind all of that, other stuff that's going on there. Before you know, they could be feeding some of the people to the lions or to some of the wild animals, safari animals. Even though we know that video was a video shooting with a lion, but no, that wasn't no real lion, but still in all, we don't know. Deception. We don't know. But like I said, men like R. Kelly behind bars and men like Joe McCain are out there taking women off to an island and unaliving them. Or if he's not doing it, he's working with the business. Remember, he lost supposedly all this money. He lost over 100. They said about $100 million or something like that. And the man that owns the island or whatever like that, he's supposed to be real good friends with Joe. And Joe knows a lot of people that are there. Business connections. And that's why I wanted to bring this to your attention. And I wanted to talk on this stuff about R. Kelly as well. About this, where's the justice? Because this man, Joe, if he didn't do it, he know who did. Or he could have paid someone, or he could have been a part of it. But I heard from somebody platform that they supposed to have like 10 people right now being detained. And I don't think if Joe was out there with Ashley, he was out there alone. Ashley was probably alone, but not him. Just like the story was told about his wedding, how he didn't want his wife to walk down the aisle with her father there to walk her down the aisle. He convinced this woman to walk down the aisle by herself, and once he got her in the way where he can control her, in that sort of way to make sure nobody would ever protect her, he did what he did to her after leaving her with a couple of kids. And then, when her time was like going through that time of her mother being terminally ill, he abandons her. And goes off, and I'm sure he had plenty other women before he even got to Ashley. But he got to know her through. I don't know how he got to meet her. I didn't get into all of that, but I'm sure he met her through some website, or he probably got her on her page, or maybe Ashley might have another page out there, OnlyFans page. You know, some of these women do some crazy things, how they meet men, how they entertain men, or whatever, how they hook up with men and everything. I don't know if that's the way he met her, but I'm just saying, you know, they go into these parties, these high end parties, and all these other places. They meet people, they meet successful men, and get their phone numbers. And the next thing you know, they are being sex trafficked off onto some island and never heard of again. And I have a feeling this ain't the first time he's done this. And I wanted to share about that woman, that Nigerian woman. And one thing I know about Nigerian women, they don't travel alone. They don't go to a country without knowing, having any connection to somebody when they get there. And I've been around Nigeria to one, so I know that. She was hooked up with some rich men on that island, and probably a white dude, because they seem to always love those white boys. Most definitely wasn't a black man. It was definitely a white man. And just like the band is in the United States, like bringing them over here to the United States, illegal immigration and all of that, saying they their wife, their cousin, they whatever. Like Ilhan Omar married a brother. And people in them third world, they do some weird stuff. They not developed in their mindset, and they don't really highly regard women. That's why you got to be very careful about places you travel and you go to. But in America, you know, you get a little bit more freedom, a little bit more safety. Not as much. We letting too many criminals into the United States. A little sickness going on in the United States too, as well, because this is where they find them at. They'll find these free spirited women in the United States. And then there's another story that just I just heard about. A woman went to St. Martin with her sister to celebrate her birthday, and they met a stranger and got in the car. Not saying that he done that, but he was there making sure the women were having a good time, and he was hosting them or whatever. But other than that, ended up he was the wrong guy. He was wanted by some dangerous people, and ended up being, you know, all through the night being watched. And when he left and he was leaving, and she was went with him, ended up losing her life there as well. So I'm just saying, like, when you go in places around the world, you like all this traveling, all of this other fun stuff you like to do. That can happen here in the United States. But I would rather somebody, if it does, I would rather it happen here to me in the United States than going all the way to a country in another continent somewhere. And then it's hard for my body to get returned back to the United States, for my family to bury me. At least if it happens in the United States, at least my family will be able to not have to spend a whole lot of money just to get my body, you know, back home for a family, for a burial. That's all I'm saying. I won't have to cause that much heartache and pain to my family, and stress, and the mother and the father. I mean, I really feel they pain right now what happened to their daughter and everybody else's daughter that has made those kind of decisions, and you thought your child was safe going off with a stranger, and it ends up tragedy. So with that being said, I'm gonna get out of here. And before I get out of here, I'm gonna play the song one more time so y'all get the message. Where is the justice now? And I don't think this case should go anywhere no time soon until we see some justice. Some justice.
type of death versus another. Toxicology results, what was in her system at the time of her passing, timeline of injury, whether injuries
tearing up the laws just to see we can find. Memories fade, but the pain still stays. They don't care about the rules, they just want me to pay. A sentence too heavy, a verdict too cold, breaking all the limits while the story unfolds. Where's the justice now? Yeah, law don't care and the courts allow. Taking freedom like a thief in the night, fighting for my soul, but they dim my light. Even where's the justice now? When the truth get lost and the lies so loud. But I'ma stand tall even when they deny, 'cause a man's still a man in the Father's eyes. Statues written, made to hold the line, but they crossed them out like they ain't worth a dime. 20 years heavy for a crime time bar. How you call it justice when the system's so scarred? This ain't just me, it could be you one day, when they move the goalpost and take your rights away. A story of a brother they refuse to defend, but the fight ain't over, this ain't the end. Hey, where's the justice now? When the law don't care and the courts allow. Yeah, right. Taking freedom like a thief in the night, fighting for my soul, but they dim my light. Yeah, right. Where's the justice now? When the truth get lost and the lies so loud. But I'ma stand tall even when they deny, 'cause a man's still a man in the Father's eyes. I believe that the truth gon' rise. They can chain my body, but my spirit still flies. Appeals won't stop me, my name won't fade. Legends live on through the storms they made. Where's the justice now? When the law don't care and the courts allow. Taking freedom like a thief in the night, fighting for my soul, but they dim my light. Where's the justice now? Where's the justice now? When the law don't care and the courts allow. Taking freedom like a thief in the night, fighting for my soul when they dim my lights. All right. So with that being said, everybody, your girl KC is going to say, I'm out. I may be back later on, depending on what developing stories I get, but I'm out for now. So you all be safe. Love you. Peace.